Hey everyone, Philip here. Welcome to part 4 of my story. This time we'll be talking about the aftermath in Ohio when I moved back to Ohio from Phoenix after the accident. A couple things to note before I jump into that. If you can hear cars driving by or car doors or whatnot, I don't know if you can hear it through the lav mic, I don't know how far away it picks up. As I said in earlier videos, we live right by Main Street and there's a gas station right across the street. It makes finding an optimal time to record difficult because people are always coming in and out of there at all hours of the day and night. Second thing, this is, of all the parts of the last decade that I knew I would be discussing, this is the one I've been looking forward to the least. This is the most personal, most emotional in a lot of ways. What happened when I came home from Phoenix back to Ohio, what happened is all very important, but I want to focus more on the injury, the trying to heal side of things, and less about what happened with my family or what happened with some friends or what happened, ultimately what happened with me and my ex. So I may touch on those things, but I won't be going in depth on those things in this video. I might do a future video after I wrap up the What's Wrong With Me series. But for now, I want to keep it streamlined to the accident and the aftermath. And yeah, so without further ado, let's get to that. The aftermath in Ohio. As said in video 3, I made the biggest mistake in looking back that I could have made post-accident, other than getting my neck set. And that was when I decided to move back to Ohio. So essentially, we put in our 30 days notice with the apartment complex. We packed what we could into the car. I did forget to mention this in the previous video that after the accident and we came back from the trip, we actually got a new car, and I got the same exact car that I had been in the accident in, because I figured if I could survive that kind of accident in that car, it must be a pretty darn good car. We packed the car up with as much stuff as we could. We didn't rent a U-Haul. It was a 1-car load all the way back to Ohio. I left so much stuff. So we packed the car. On the way out of Phoenix, we stopped at the chiropractor, who I forgot to give a little nickname to, but we'll call him Dr. Cashews. Dr. Cashews adjusted me one last time on the way out and also expressed his, lack of being thrilled that we were driving back to Ohio. And yeah, I should have listened to everybody. The lawyer, Dr. Cashews, coworkers, everyone was saying it was a bad idea. And it was, ultimately. Normally, before the accident, I said in another video, I've traveled the country 5 times. So I'm pretty adept at traveling by car. But with the newness of the injury, it was rough. On the trip, I experienced a pain I have not felt since. And I can't say it was from the car seats, because I actually find car seats to be, well, for the most part, to be very comfortable. I'm sitting in this car seat and the pain is so intense that, did you ever have pain where, how can I word it? Like you're crying, but you're not crying, if that makes sense, where the pain was so great that tears were just coming out of my eyes. And I'm sitting there, in the car trying to have composure, I guess. And just tears are just rolling down my face. And I'm not like boo-hoo crying. It's just the pain is so great, it's just forcing tears out of my eyes. And this is hard to explain, but from the very top of the cervical spine all the way down to about the middle of the thoracic spine, that whole area from like here to here, it felt like, the best way I can describe it is like electricity dripping down. It was just like these pulses that was just dripping down my spine. And it was such a scary and bizarre feeling. I remember trying to tell my ex about what it was like, and I don't know if they understood really, which is kind of a common thread, I think, throughout the entire injury process between them and myself. Once we got back to Ohio and I was out of the car, it never came back like that. But that trip was really strange, just as far as the pain that I felt on that trip that never duplicated itself quite like that. So on the trip back, we're staying at hotels and they're, I can't control the bed and etc. like that. But one of the nights I slept completely wrong and I messed up my neck really bad back here. It's the very top of the bump area that I talked about in part 3, where the C vertebra and T vertebra meet. There's these flat pieces. The one on the right side had popped out completely. Now, if you remember from video 3, I said I had no neck muscles. So my spine moving, at will was becoming the new normal for me. But it was never like this. This was bad. It had popped up like that. And it was so bad that you could actually see it sticking out of my neck. And then, the last leg of the trip, my bone back here pops up and was sticking straight up and was very uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. So I get back to Ohio. I'm staying with my mom and her roommate. We basically took a room that their pet rabbit was living in. It had this whole room to itself, and we kind of took it over. And so we stayed in that room. There was a bed already there. I had to go get some foam pads to sleep on because I was told that I needed to have support, and that was recommended to me. So I purchased some of those thin foam pads you can get at a big box store. I got 2 of them. In hindsight, I should not have done that. One of the many things I think I was informed incorrectly of what to do as far as my condition goes. There's a piece of hair in front of my face. My mom was the first person that actually acknowledged the amount of pain that I was in. Like, me and my mom have always had this bond, like an unspoken bond. And it makes what happened between us that much more difficult. But she said one time about that I was in agonizing pain, and I said, how can you tell? And she says, I can see it on your face. She was one of the first people that could read it. Since the accident up until moving back, people were there, and the doctors and whatnot were admitting something was wrong, even though they had varying degrees of what was wrong. To have someone just look at you and say, yeah, you're in bad shape and I can see it, was not nice to hear, because you don't want to hear that you look like you're in pain and it looks bad, but it was pain and it was bad, so yeah. And then because of that bone that popped up back here, I needed to find a chiropractor, a doctor, anyone stat. I'm one of those people that doesn't like talking on the phone, be it a doctor appointment or to order a pizza. I don't like talking on the phone. It's a really weird fear. Now, professionally, I have no problem talking to people. So if I do photography and whatnot, I have no problem talking to clients, but like personal stuff, I don't know why I have this weird phone thing. But I remember opening the yellow pages. I called every orthopedic doctor in the book, and all of them turned me down, because I was saying, I would call them and ask, do you take patients who are under a car accident lien? Which essentially is, can you help me now? Then when the case is settled, you will get paid. Every single one said no. Some were very rude, which I wasn't surprised by, having grown up there. And eventually I didn't want to go to a chiropractor. I didn't. But eventually I had to go to the chiropractor part of the phone book. And eventually I did find one. This individual, I will change the name of again, because I have nothing but bad things to say about this person. I have some issues today that stem from him mistreating me as far as treatment, and stuff that just didn't heal right because of him. His name, we'll say, was Dr. Posey. And Dr. Posey comes off as very affable, very nice. I'm sure he's a nice person in real life, but he told me to my face that he could help me and that he knew what was wrong with me. And he also told me, much like Dr. Cashews did, that I would be better in 3 months. There's a lot of stuff I wish I knew now. A lot of mistakes that were made on my end by choices that I made. But Dr. Posey uses what's called an activator. He doesn't do like the traditional chiropractic stuff where they find where you are and they, adjust you and fix you. He uses an activator, which essentially looks like kind of like a syringe. I'll pop a picture of one up now. And it has like a dull end, and they just like click, 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 where they need to. And that's how he got this part of my spine back in place. He just clicked it back in place. But my issues were from here up. Since he wasn't feeling where the bones were out of place, or you know what I mean? He wasn't like getting a hands-on grasp of like my spine or my ribs or anything. He was just like click, 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 click. Within 2 weeks of seeing Dr. Posey, when he put this back in place, this muscle right here, this thick muscle right here, swelled up to just under my ear, about this high. So all of this empty space you see here, right there, was swelled up to, this muscle just swelled up to where my finger is. It got so bad that I lost feeling in this arm and hand. It was as if like, when your arm is going to sleep or your hand is going to sleep and you go like this. That's what I was doing. I immediately went to the ER because I was scared. They gave me an ice pack and some Vicodin and sent me home. If you ever wonder why I don't trust doctors, if someone comes in and their shoulder is swollen up to almost under their ear, and all you give them is ice packs and Vicodin? So found a chiropractor, as I said, got this put back in place, started seeing him regularly. Then stuff happened with my mom. And again, this is the very personal, very difficult part of the story to talk about. So I'm going to gloss over it. It is pertinent to the story, very pertinent to the story. And at the end of the day, she is my mom. And I do love her very much, but I learned the hard way, and I'll touch on this more when I do the next part of the story. But I learned that family isn't always blood, and it's unfortunate. I will lay it down like this, though. Imagine that all the moms, dads, parents, all the parents out there of children, imagine that your child gets into an accident so bad that they were lucky to walk away alive, let alone walking. And that child comes home to heal with you. And less than a month later, you no longer live there and you are then off raising someone else's kids. While your oldest child, your firstborn, is laying bedridden in a soft collar, confused and hurt because someone made very selfish decisions and justified it like they always do. This was a straw that broke the camel's back thing for me because me and my mom we have a bond. We do. We really do. But this isn't the first incident like this. Yeah, I had enough. I was done. Like, this was like, how dare you do this? Like, I came back to be with you. I came back because I needed protected and I needed support and, for someone to just still think of themselves and put themselves first and justify it the way they did. Yeah, I have not spoken to my mother since August 2009. As far as in person, I did reach out to her one time when I was almost homeless, which I'm going to cover in the next part of the story. I'm not saying I wish I wouldn't have, because I was almost homeless, but she didn't respond, so we will just leave it at that. My mom's roommate is letting us stay there still. It's just hard. It's hard to, like, I want to go into this tirade about it, or even just explain. Like, I will in the future, possibly, but I want to say publicly, Julie, thank you. You didn't have to let us stay there. You didn't have to let us have that room. And you let us stay there until you had to move yourself. And I will always appreciate that. So thank you. I'm bedridden about 75% of the time. The other 25%, I'm sitting in a straight-backed computer chair like this. I'm trying like not to move my neck at all, because in my head, if I don't move it, it will just heal up. Because anytime I moved it, stuff would move and pop because there was nothing there. I said in part 3, this was mashed potatoes still. And while bedridden, I had to lie on my back because I needed to have my neck supported under a pillow. I had to teach myself how to sleep on my back. Traditionally, I was a side sleeper or a front sleeper, like on my stomach. And I had to teach myself how to sleep on my back. And I had to actually take the pillow I had and kind of bunch it up around my neck. So when I was sleeping, I have like a little concave cutout for my head. I was also sleeping with a rolled up towel underneath the back here. So I'd be laying on the pillow with a rolled up towel because he said that if I didn't do that, then my windpipe, my esophagus and whatnot would. So your head's here and your windpipe kind of bends. Mine would have been straight, which I guess is bad for some reason. Problem is that my neck was so malleable that as it was starting to heal, it was healing. It was like, if I was gonna heal like this, it was the rolled up towel was pushing my head forward like that. So I do think that that was the wrong suggestion. I think that it contributes to my head sitting so far forward on my body. I think that my reverse curve up here is my bump area is so severe because I had a towel that was basically going like this as I laid on it. I'm gonna tell you straight up that if I could take Dr. Posey to court and sue him, I would. Most of my ailments to this day stem from him and his just lack of understanding what I was going through, his flat out lying to me about what I was going through, and all his suggestions ended up making me worse off. So the reason I brought up having to lay on my back also is because I had to lay there and, all I had to look at was the ceiling. And I memorized every groove. I spent 6 months from like June to December of 2009, predominantly in bed. While laying in bed, I would have to, like the TV was on my left side. So I would have to actually have a pillow under my arm and one of those big square mirrors. And I have to prop like the pillow under my arm and then prop it up and then watch TV by looking at the mirror, reflecting the TV. And that's how I watched TV when I wasn't sitting in the computer chair. I did try and walk around. I did. The problem was my body was just destroyed. The stuff that Dr. Posey was doing to me was making it worse. I didn't realize at the time, but it was. Yeah, I could maybe walk for 10 minutes, 15, maybe max, before I had to sit down. Since I didn't have like neck muscles, my jaw, it's crazy how you don't realize how much things are connected in your body until you can't use them. So I couldn't open my jaw very wide. Talking was hard. I had to kind of, talk almost like you were gritting your teeth. That's how I had to talk. Because I couldn't open my jaw very wide. And laughing, I had to laugh, like internally laugh. I couldn't like ha 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 laugh. That sucked because that was one of the things I was known for in my life was my laugh. I have a very loud laugh. And I was proud of it. And I am to this day. I got it back and I'm proud of it. It's another thing that was just a part of me that was stolen from me. And it's hard to watch pieces of yourself being taken from you. And there's nothing you can do about it. And you have no answers as to why. On top of that, since I couldn't open my jaw, I had to cut up my food. And we lived off of like Little Caesars Hot and Ready for like a while. And I couldn't open my mouth wide enough to really eat the pizza. So I had to cut it up into pieces. That's how bad it was and how much it hurt. I had to cut up pizza to eat it. Speaking of spending money, since my mom was no longer in the picture, we of course helped out with rent and bills and food, which I hadn't expected to do. On top of car note and insurance, and within a year and a half of being back in Ohio, I had went through the entire $15,000 of savings. It was gone. I'm still a little bitter about that because the idea of coming home was to save that money and then, go on with my life as it would have been. But then again, I was told by doctors I would be better, in 3 months. You may be asking, then what's going on with the 6 months? Well, when I wasn't better in September, not even close to being better in September, Dr. Posey told me I'd be better by December. And I believed him. I mean, I was still at the point in my life then where I was believing doctors. They're doctors, they're not supposed to lead you on or squeeze you for every cent they can get out of you they're supposed to be good people and they're supposed to help you. That's their job. But right now, it's 2009 and I completely trust every doctor I talk to. I'm also getting different treatments from Dr. Posey. And this is what I talked about, him doing stuff that kind of messed me up. It was in this time he would focus here at first, But then he just started clicking like damn near every vertebra in my spine. And I'm thinking my issues are from here up. Why are you clicking down here? Why are you clicking here? I forget exactly when. It was, I want to say October, November, maybe November, December of 2009. And I just had a treatment with him and we came back and I went to lay down in bed and the middle of my thoracic spine, the middle of my back, like if this is your vertebra, one of them went like that, popped completely off to the side. It's like what happened up here. It's like a bone that's popped up or popped off to the side and it hurts because it's not in place. But with your spine, everything is like, if you're laying on something like that, you're laying on it and the pressure pushes up. If you're sitting down, you're compressing your spine. So if you're compressing your spine, if something's popped out, it's compressing both ways. So we called Dr. Posey immediately and, hey, I need to come back in. My spine just popped out hard. Because he was adjusting that part of my spine with his little activator thing. He was aggravating things that there was nothing wrong with. And so stuff started popping out. To this day, you can run your fingers down my back like this. If you run your fingers along my spine, you can feel where the two vertebrae are going opposite directions. On the vacation that I had a few months back, I had someone run their fingers down my spine and they were like, oh. I was like, can you feel that? And then, yeah. Because you can still feel that my vertebrae are not probably ever going to be back in place. And that's because of Dr. Posey. That was one of the many things he did that permanently damaged me. Another thing he did is he would adjust my ribs up here with the activator thing. So it was click, 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 click. I have messed up ribs now. So pretend these are your ribs. Humor me. Pretend this part here is flat, like your ribs would normally be. But up here, if you feel where the knuckle is, there's a bump, because that's how your fingers are. But that's how my ribs feel now. There's bumps, just little bumps, almost like little calcified, just little mounds all over my ribs because of what he did. They're still there. They don't go away. You can feel them to this day. And it's been 10 years later. It was very humbling. Not only did I have to cut up my food to eat it, including pizza, I had to be helped in and out of the shower. I hate baths. I think they're gross. You don't realize how physically demanding showers are until your body is failing you. Even to this day, I hate taking showers. I take a shower because that's all we have in the apartments. And I don't like baths. Showers always just aggravate everything. I had a shower earlier today after I woke up and they just take it out of me. Even all this time later, they're not fun. But also it's because my body isn't healing, which is why I'm doing this series in the first place. Having to be helped in and out of a shower, having to be helped in the shower, and I talked about parts of your life being taken from you, and that's on the long, long list of things that were about my life that were no longer the same. I remember sitting there at the window in my computer chair like this, just staring out the window, watching people drive by in their cars and thinking, they're healthy, they're healthy. They're not sitting in a chair with a busted neck and back that's getting worse because someone is not treating you correctly. And yeah, that was the next 6 months of my life from June to December. And it was kind of then that I knew I needed to take matters into my own hands. And in January of 2010, I started doing my own physical therapy. This is gonna sound really funny, but my physical therapy essentially was my ex driving me to a store called Meijer, which I don't know if you have those where you live, but they're basically like a Walmart. And they were open 24 hours. So I could go there anytime I wanted, and I would just walk around there. That was my physical therapy. So thank you, Meijer, for being my physical therapy. And it started off about 15, 20 minutes. And then eventually, after a few months, it was up to 40 and then an hour. Shortly after I hit about an hour of walking, I was more comfortable moving. I was still bedridden, but not as much. It was pretty much, I would sit in the computer chair until that hurt too much. I had to lay down until that hurt too much, until I would sit in the computer chair. I would just go back and forth, which was how I was doing it before, but it was mostly bedridden, a little bit of chair, but it was more, it was like less bedridden and more chair as time went on. And then you throw in moving, walking. So it was like bedridden, chair, walking, in different increments. But once I started feeling a little better, I got a membership at Anytime Fitness, and they were really cool. I walked in, I told them my situation, and they gave me, I don't know if it was a physical therapy discount or what it was, but they gave me a discount to do my own physical therapy. and which was mostly cardio, light weights. But at the time, I hadn't done enough homework as I did in later years. Like now I have a cardio weight yoga routine, which I'll also go over in the future for anyone else that is going through something similar, which is also a goal of this story, is to find anyone out there that can relate in any way. So Anytime Fitness, thank you for taking someone who was broken and understanding enough. I'm sure that begs the question, what was going on with your ex this entire time? He was mainly supporting me, not like financially, but just being there. He wasn't getting a job because we were told I'd be better in 3 months or 6 months. We had money in the bank at the time, so it's a double-edged sword. Like, I'm not going to paint them as this like noble, chivalrous person. They essentially didn't work because they didn't want to work, and only got a job when they absolutely had to, which was really, I think, the beginnings of the downfall of our relationship. And I'll leave it there because I'm not going to, that's a very personal, very messy situation, and I did some things wrong as well. So summer of 2010, I'm going to Anytime Fitness. I'm seeing Dr. Posey still with minimal results. I knew something was wrong. Because the time frame is key. It's getting bumped up. More is 3 months, 6 months. You know your own body. I don't care what somebody's little degree on a wall tells them. If they're not understanding you, if they're not listening to you, go somewhere else. If you know your body, you know what you're saying is true, and they're doubting you, go to someone else. This person is not qualified to help you. And if I'd known that, then I think my life would have turned out a lot different. So as said, I knew after a year or so of seeing Dr. Posey that something was wrong. And I asked him to his face, I was like, can you please recommend me for surgery? I need neck surgery. And he told me no. His reasoning was that I could not have neck surgery because I did not have permanent neurological damage. And I trusted him. After messing up my spine, after messing up my ribs, after stringing me along and lying to me all this time about he knew what was wrong with me and I could be fixed in a few months, and then 6 months, and now a year, I still believed him, because I still believed that doctors had my best interest at heart. I think that if I had had the surgery I wanted, that I would probably be okay now, I think. I don't know for sure, obviously, but it's a what if. I was denied surgery that I knew I needed, and remember this moment, because in a few minutes I'll go over something that happened that this is when I knew that I had been completely hosed. It was a month or two later, he recommends that I go see a colleague of his. And we'll call this colleague Dr. Cycles. Again, I still trust doctors, and I believed him. I was like, okay, I'll go do this. Anything is progress to me. Anything is better than the nothing that I'm doing right now. So I go see Dr. Cycles. We set up the surgery. They have you go into the room, you lay on your stomach, and then they want you to turn your head to the side, so they can have easier access. Like if your neck is this and it's turned to the side, you can have easier access to the parts of the spine. I got into a debate with him on that table, laying face down, that I could not turn my neck to the side. He says, turn your neck to the side. I said, I can't. He says, yes, you can turn your neck to the side. I'm like, I cannot. Like, I don't have the range of motion to turn my head. Even to this day, this is as far as I can go. And this is as far as I can go this way. And even then, the muscles are so weak that what muscle I do have is so weak. You hear little crunchy noises from when it separates from the cranium, which is essentially why I'm not healing, because the muscle won't attach to the cranium and stay. So we're having this back and forth, and I'm like, I cannot twist my head to the side. I don't have the neck muscle to do that. I don't have the range of motion to do that. If I force it, stuff will pop. And he just proceeds to stick the needle in, like, don't piss your doctor off. Don't piss your surgeon person off, because they're going to freaking take it out on you. And it hurt like hell. Like this long needle. And essentially, I was kind of misled, because I thought it was more of a corrective spinal thing with needles. All it was that he was injecting cortisone into my certain areas in my neck. And that was it. Went back for the follow-up visit. And granted, the cortisone shots did feel okay. This is, again, what I'm saying. I don't think people understood the severity of my condition. No one seemed to get it, that how I was running on no neck muscles. My spine was moving at will. I should have had surgery that set everything and then been put in a hard collar, and that may have happened. That may have happened if I stayed in Phoenix. You know, I wonder that. If I stayed in Phoenix and had proper care, maybe things would have turned out differently. Certainly from a lawsuit settlement, they would have turned out differently. And the moment I knew that I had been fleeced was I went back for a visit with Dr. Cycles for a follow-up. It wasn't about what can you possibly do to really fix this. It was, well, we could do the surgery again, which I said no. And he spent the next 20 minutes trying to sell me his yoga DVDs. I left so angry because I knew then that I was like, I have been played. Should add in, though, before we stop talking about Dr. Cycles, that he told me that I had hyperkyphosis. So we're going to add that to the list of things that are, so I have scoliosis, a reverse curve of the spine, and now I have hyperkyphosis. So we'll add this to the list of things that are supposed to be wrong with me. You can understand why I'm, to this day, still livid about everything they did to me or didn't do for me. My case has been mishandled every step of the way, with the mistake on my end of coming back to Ohio in the first place. So maybe you can kind of understand now why coming back to Ohio was a bad idea. You know, the mom stuff and the doctor stuff and the money thing and, you know, this weird surgery that I didn't need. I was just basically getting taken to the cleaners by people who just saw me as a giant dollar sign. And yeah, that's pretty much the way life was. I still went and saw Dr. Posey after because I thought it was just Dr. Cycles that was the charlatan. And then after the 2 years was up for the car lien, he really showed his true colors. The entire staff did. Once they were no longer bound by that car lien, they got rude and pushy. I had to call them and tell them the accident is currently still being settled. I cannot pay you until that is done. Well, you need to pay us. I realized that, thus the car accident lien. You're going to get paid. And I had more than one very uncomfortable, very unprofessional talk with his staff. Even to this day, I would like to go back into his office and I want to tell him to his face everything he did to me. And I want to see him in court so bad, but what can I do now? You know, it's been 10 years. At this point, it's hearsay. And it's my word against him and his staff, and I'm sure he'd find patients that would back him up, and it's just little old me having been, you know, medically abused by people who should have had my best interest at heart. And I still went to see him. Not as frequently, but if stuff popped out, I didn't know where else to go. So by then I was paying out of pocket. Yeah, even after all of it, even after them, give me my money, where's my money? Stuff and then being rude, like I was stuck and I had nowhere else to go. You know, as we come up to the end of the car accident lien, aftermath in Ohio part of the story, I was just thinking about one of the last times I spoke with Dr. Posey and what he said to me. Remember a few minutes back, I said to remember a few minutes ahead of something that happened. One of the last conversations I had with him was he called me into his office and he asked me to my face, get this is a year later after me asking and being told no. He asks me to my face, so, did you still want to get surgery? At this point, I didn't trust him. So, because at this point I was starting, you know, after everything that went down over the 2 years, I was starting to see through the veneer of it all. And I mean, maybe I should have said yes, but I didn't trust that he would recommend me to the right person, or maybe it would just be another so-called cash grab for another one of his golf buddies, or, you know, I don't know. I remember just kind of like laughing in response, thinking, are you freaking kidding me? So yeah. And yeah, that was pretty much the next 2 years of my life, from 2009 to 2011. Eventually, Julie, who we stayed with, moved, and we had to move out and find our own place. And luckily, my ex had found a job, so he was working. It was around this era of my life that family and friends started saying stuff behind my back. There was a lot of talk about me faking it, me doing it for attention, A lot of other relatives were saying like mother, like son. I can't say my mom ever faked any of her ailments or injuries or anything like that. I would never ever say that because I don't know that to be true. I know that I wasn't. And I had medical proof on my side to back me up. Well, it's been 2 years. Why aren't you healed? People come back from broken necks, legitimate broken necks in a year and a half. Yeah, I know. Why do you think I'm so confused? Why do you think I'm so just angry? This is the part of my story that starts to be the part that I can't find anyone else that this has happened to. I've never seen anyone else have a moment where they bust their neck is set, their neck shreds, and then just doesn't heal back. About a year and a half in, I started feeling more muscle here. So when I say it wasn't healing back, it did try. I know atrophy all too well. I remember the first time I ever felt it. I was laying on my neck and I went to sit up out of bed, and then this like feeling. I know it sounds weird. Like imagine like your neck is 1,000 rubber bands. You know, when it's connecting your head to your spine and the rest of your body. And imagine you take one of those rubber bands and you go, and you thwick it and it goes. That's what atrophy feels like. For me at least. But for me though, when you thwack that rubber band and it goes, it doesn't just go back into place, it snaps. So it'll vibrate and then snap, and you can feel it. And then when it snaps, it hurts up here where it connected, and then down in here where it was connected. I started atrophying pretty regularly, and to this day, I still atrophy. So we're a year and a half, 2 years in on my story, and it's about 2011-ish. And yeah, I'm not much better. I'm more mobile, mostly due to my own motivation, I guess, to start my own physical therapy. I get that people want to make a buck, and I get wanting to make money, and okay, that's cool, but this is my life. This is my life we're talking about. This is my one consciousness on this planet, and a quarter of it has been this. And the first 2 years of that were because of just people who really didn't care about me. I ended up being broken, still broke, used, misused, lied to, swindled, abandoned. Yeah. So I said, maybe you can see now a little bit why I shouldn't have come back to Ohio. It was a mistake. In the next video, I will talk about how I was 2 days away from being homeless, and then the second major accident that I was in. That, yeah. So thank you for bearing through this, and thank you for listening. Maybe now my story is becoming a little more fleshed out as far as just the way things went down. So yeah. I'll see you on the next video.